Welcome to TEDxSurrey Conversations with our speakers. I'm Noel Bentley. I'm the host and program manager for TEDxSurrey, which was originally TEDx Bear Creek Park. And today we have Dr. Robert McDermid. He's an intensive care doctor and the past medical director of Surrey Memorial Hospital. He's a self-confessed coffee enthusiast. He likes to take it from bean to cup. He roasts his own beans, but he gave up on growing his own plants. So fair enough, you can't do everything. He's definitely a consummate storyteller, and he's poured himself into the TEDx process. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, Noel.
Yeah, it's good to have you here today. And what I'd like you to do, of course, is if you can tell us about what you'll be speaking about, what your idea is, but do your best to avoid those spoilers.
Absolutely. A number of years ago, when I was just finished my training as an intensive care doctor, I was on holiday, and a couple of people that we met on holiday were asking me about my job. He had a job that wasn't in healthcare, but obviously as an intensive care doctor, I had an experience with healthcare that was kind of foreign to him. As an intensive care doctor, I get to see a lot of people unfortunately die. And he was very curious about that experience. He and his wife we were having dinner with he and his wife, my wife and I were having dinner with he and his wife. And what struck me in the conversation was just how interested they were in asking questions around death and dying. And I realized that this is something that people don't really have a venue to explore. And the conversations that we had ended up really allowing us to connect. That was kind of the genesis of where I saw this possibility of talking about death and talking about the process of dying as being something really instrumental that was missing from not just healthcare, but our society. Is something that's just avoided. And I've learned over the years that this topic is something that people desperately want to know about, even though they don't really want to talk about it. It's kind of uncomfortable.
Well, now we've got to ask, what's the best way to overcome the resistance for that, for people to broach this subject?
You know, it's actually quite simple. First, as an ICU doctor, I have a level of familiarity with dying. It's something that I see almost every day when I'm at work. And although familiarity doesn't necessarily make you an expert, it does lend a certain level of comfort and confidence in dealing with the things that end up coming up. And you know, when people are at risk of dying, it doesn't mean they always die. So there's always this opportunity for people to recover that I get to see. And so when I'm facing the possibility of death and dying in the ICU, I always still have hope, right? Question is what we're hopeful for, and navigating that conversation with families is always challenging, but can be very rewarding. How do I broach it? I broach it with compassion, openness, thoughtfulness, and like I said, this level of confidence that I have in being able to manage the common things that happen in a way that allows people to have an experience that is positive, despite the difficulties and the challenges that exist in those moments.
Well, and fair enough. And just to maybe even pull it back to you a little bit here, I mean, obviously this takes such a huge commitment of time, effort, mental, physical resources. Why do a TED Talk? Because that's a big investment on your part.
Well, I think the real reason that I want to do this talk is that I really don't see a lot of, although there's lots of books and things like that, there hasn't really been a lot of societal discussion on this. And to me, I see the struggles that healthcare has with respect to how we treat people. And I really feel that something that's been missing for a long time is this conversation around death and dying, what end of life looks like, and how can we do this in a compassionate way and something that is so efficiency focused in healthcare. The reason I want to do the TED Talk is it's another forum where I can get the message out that death is actually not always scary. The conversations around it can actually be open and compassionate and thoughtful, and can really bring a zest for life if they're done carefully and thoughtfully and compassionately.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. And I'm just kind of curious for yourself as well. When we come up to the event, what are you most looking forward to yourself?
I'm looking forward to having this opportunity to share something that I believe very, very passionately and very deeply in with a broad audience, but also the opportunity to have some people that I'm close to in the audience watching. I'm also looking forward to the potential to spread this message, because I really do think it's important. I think it is one of the pivotal things that we need to deal with in healthcare, and starting the conversation in a way that resonates with me personally is something that I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to do. I'm very, very excited to be standing on the red dot and hopefully spreading something that people find meaningful and inspiring.
Great, thank you. I'm kind of curious, as you continue through this process of preparing for your talk, is there anything that's caught you by surprise, maybe about yourself or something you've been asked to do that you didn't expect?
Yes, lots of things. One of the when I approached the TED Talk, or the audition for the TED Talk, I thought to myself, I've done lots of speaking before, but I saw the curation team and the skill set that the curation team had, and I thought, you know what, this is going to be a real opportunity for me to learn as well as to hopefully share. The skills that were brought to bear on something that I do all the time, but haven't had a lot of formal training in, speaking in front of a crowd, having people with very different expertise look at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and making sure that the elements of the presentation and of the conversation that I'm hoping to have with people all align. So as Alan says, the content, the structure, and the delivery, all of those things have to be aligned in order to give a really masterful presentation. And the skill of the team in helping me, someone who has done lots of talks, actually bring my talk to the next level has been both surprising and quite exciting.
Well, and fair enough. I'm going to ask you to put on a different hat now.
Sure.
And rather than a speaker or a physician, marketer. I'm going to wonder, how would you nudge people? Say, we need to see you there. How would you give them that little push?
Well, I think that if I was the marketer, the thing that I would want to do is get the incredible people that I've already seen presenting in front of a camera to tell a little bit of their story, because one of the things that really struck me as I was sitting in the room with the other presenters is in the audition process was that if I didn't get accepted for an audition, I definitely wanted to be part of the audience. Just hearing the little snippets of information that I was catching while I was in the audition process made me really want to be a part of this, whether or not I was a presenter. So I think that allowing people to get a little bit of insight into the kind of people that are presenting and hear just little fragments even of what might be at the actual day, on the actual day, would be, in my opinion, probably the best way to get people to want to come.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Rob, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure.
All right. And for everyone who's wondering how to see TEDxSurrey, best way you can do that is to log on to TEDxSurrey.ca, give you information on how to get tickets. And of course, features our speakers and information all about TEDxSurrey.